lean is a way of life. It's a way of living. So, once you embrace it, once you understand it, make sure you implement it and share those wins. It's really important to share, to celebrate those wins, share those wins with people so that you get others on board as well.
Today, I'm excited to welcome Tejas Munot to the show. Now, a few weeks ago, I put a thing out on LinkedIn about looking for folks who had been practicing lean for a couple of years and wanted to maybe see to get some of those folks to come onto the podcast to share their story. It's always fun to hear from folks who are, kind of getting into this whole lean movement and what they're learning and how things are going. And so Tejas is one of the guys who responded, and we had a lot of fun. Boy, he may be newer to lean, but boy, he's had a lot of experience. He did a lot of work with an intern at VIBCO with Karl and the team over there, and he learned a lot there. And so what we talk about on the show is just really his journey and how he's learned about various aspects of lean, and you'll start to hear that he's really picked up on the importance of having this learning approach, like constantly learning, and then also the importance of human relationships and making sure that everybody's kind of on the same page and working together. And so, yeah, we had a lot of fun talking about those things. And then what's interesting is Tejas actually turned the tables and he asked me a few questions. So that was a lot of fun. He asked me about some of my early mentors and, if I could go back in time, anything I would do differently. And it was really interesting to kind of reflect on some old stories from my past. So that was a lot of fun as well. So show notes for this episode will be found over at gembapodcast.com. This is going to be episode 348. Again, gembapodcast.com, and look for episode 348. Okay, enough from me. Let's get to the show. Tejas, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you, Ron?
I'm good, man. I'm doing really well. Thank you. Well, listen, I'm excited for this podcast. We put a thing out on LinkedIn a few weeks ago about folks who have been maybe practicing lean for a few years and really excited to talk to them, because, sometimes a lot of people listening to the show are newer to lean, but we also have a lot of experienced folks as well. But I think always kind of coming back to that beginning place and where everything is new and you're learning so much, it's exciting for everyone to listen. And I think maybe we'll even let you turn the tables on me later in the podcast if you promise not to ask too hard of questions.
I promise to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, Tejas, we like to begin all of our episodes with our guests sharing a quote. So do you have one?
Absolutely, I do. So this is something that I learned first from Karl, who is the president and CEO of VIBCO Vibrators.
Yep.
And the quote is as follows. Fix what bugs you. It's so simple and yet so powerful. And yes. I feel that it's sort of a job description of anyone who's working in the field of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
All that he or she does is fix what bugs them.
I love it. Now, depending on who's listening to this, I'm going to argue on the originator of that quote, whether it's Karl or Paul Akers. So we'll let those guys fight it out on who said it first. I don't know, but I know they're both passionate about saying that. But I also like it. Fix what bugs you. That's a great motto for all continuous improvement practitioners. So absolutely. So, hey, listen, tell us about your background, Tejas. Tell us about how you first got exposed to continuous improvement and lean, and then tell us about what you're up to these days.
Sure. So, Ron, my journey starts back in India. So I come from India, and I was always sort of interested in the mechanics. So, how things run, etc. So naturally, my progression was towards getting my bachelor's in mechanical. So I have a mechanical degree. Right after that, I joined General Motors. So I worked with them in the manufacturing engineering department. And I sort of settled in really quickly with GM. So it was sort of really easy to pick up. And right after a year, I started feeling a bit complacent. I was doing same things over and over, which I got really good at. But I sort of started feeling a little bit complacent. So I decided just to get out of my comfort zone And the way I tried to do it was to get a master's degree in a completely different part of the world.
Mm.
So coming from India to the United States was a whole new journey. It was, I had no friends that were in the US, no family. So, building those relationships with the people, building the relationships you had with your roommates and during your masters, it was a journey. It was awesome. And I learned so much because you're with yourself, right? You have your own thoughts that accompany you. So that makes you get out of your comfort zone and really know you as your person. So that was a good journey. I also got to intern with VIBCO Vibrators as a part of my master's degree,
Mm-hmm.
and that was when I was first introduced to the concept of lean and Six Sigma.
Mm.
Karl really took me under his wing
Yeah.
and showed me the path. Basically, showed me the beautiful world of lean, and I was on board immediately. So that's been the journey, and to the person I am today, I owe it to Karl Wodenston.
Ah,
Today I
great.
work as a kaizen leader at a plastics injection molding company, and I get to do the work I love the most is fixing what bugs people.
I love it. Well, what a wonderful mentor and teacher to have in Karl. You're very, very lucky to have someone like that.
I definitely.
Yeah, fantastic. And VIBO is an amazing company as well, doing some great work. For a long time, they've been in the lean part of the lean movement, So, yeah, one of the originators, I would think, in America. So fantastic. All right. Well, let's jump into really more, I guess I'm interested in just hearing some of the lessons that you've learned about lean, especially working with Karl and all those folks there at VIBCO who are living and breathing, all these things that we're teaching. So tell us about some of the things that you've been learning.
Sure. Ron, it's funny that you bring it up, and I want to share this story that was actually happened in VIBCO. Karl has been a big influence in my life, and this was something that happened when I was working with him. It was late in the evening, and a customer called in to change a few things on his order. So he wanted some things to be added to this. And I happened to be in the office with Karl, and as soon as I knew that, I said to Karl, don't worry, we are on this. I'll just go back, run to the painting department, and ask the painter to add a few things for us, and we should be ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And in his and his response was in his dusky voice, call TJ. He called me TJ. It's TJ. You're not going to do that. You are not going to ask him. You're going to request him to do this for you. And I was speechless. That for me was when I know that even if you mean all the respect from within, your words need to do the justice that you feel your feelings from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's also not just the feeling that you have from within, but also the words that make a great impact on any person's life. So the things that I took away from it was, if you are in a position that can influence other people, you need to make sure that the words that you use deploy the respect for people, and that's what lean is all about, right?
So I'm curious, talk a little bit more about that, asking versus requesting or whatever it is. Why do you think that matters so much?
The feeling I had from that was, say if a CEO of a company comes and asks you to do something, you'll probably do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if the CEO of the company comes in, speaks to you, requests you to do something, you'll do it probably with a smile on your face. And that's important, right? So that's what I take away from the lesson is requesting, because it's a different word, the connotation to it. The things that you say also mean different things for people because they come from various backgrounds. So it's really important to focus on the words that you use to address people, especially to show that they are valued, to show that they are an important part of the organization and you love working with them.
Give me your favorite Karl story.
Carl's story, he is a character, that you absolutely love. One of the things that I think I remember is there's a company that came in from a different sort of background, and he turned the tables on us. Basically what happened was, because Vibco is doing lean for such a long time, that people from various parts of the world came in and looked at the organization. So Carl was one of the founding members of Lean in the company, and he had turned the people that worked for him from not people who do not believe in Lean into people who were at the forefront of Lean for his journey. So the stories that he had were amazing.
Mm, I love it. I love it. So you mentioned kaizen events, and I know VIBCO is fantastic at running events and just practicing, just lean in general. But let's maybe hone in a little bit about kaizen events. Do you have like a process or an outline that you use there at VIBCO?
Sure. So this is something that I read recently, and it's inspired from a book called Reduced Effort Changeover, and it's written by Ron Heiskill. He's a brilliant lean thinker, and he gives you all the details that by step that how a Kaizen event should look like. So I try to take a page from his book, and I'll share a story with you on this. So I recently led a Kaizen event for reducing the changeover that we had at our plastics injection molding company. So currently, it took us about 2 hours to complete the changeover. But at the end of the event, we were able to reduce it by 61%, and the journey was beautiful. So what I try to do is once we have that problem identified, I'll go out and I videotape the people doing the changeover, and the way that I try to do it is I'll try and get uh, the people who actually do the job onto the screen. So if it's a 2 or a 3-person job, like we have right now, it's a 3-person job for a changeover. So I'll get those 3 different videos, not just focusing on the activity, but also the person, because I feel a lot of the motion aspect of the waste gets it doesn't get a lot of attention, just because it's natural for a person to walk. So if he's walking back and forth to get those tools, that's something that sometimes goes by just because it's natural. So video really helps you identify how much of walking is done. We also try to do a spaghetti diagram, and the results you should have seen those people. They were like in awe to understand that I walk about 95 different in 95 different times just to do a one single changeover. So that was astonishing for people just to sit back and watch themselves.
Yeah,
That's a powerful thing that they can see. I also in my team, I'll try and get people from non-manufacturing background also, just because they bring a different perspective. Say people from sales or accounting. The reason why I have those people is because they would ask questions that probably you and I won't. Because we know certain assumptions
yeah,
of a manufacturer, how does manufacturing work, right? But these people having no prior background would probably question those very assumptions. And once you have that questioning going on, you get 2 things. One is you really understand why it is that way, or second is you get on board. Is like, yeah, that makes sense. Why do we do it this way? So that drives a completely different and a sort of questioning, sort of brainstorming, and that then it's just fun to watch.
yeah.
So that's something that I try to do.
Mm-hmm. Hey, talk a little bit about the video camera, because I totally agree. Filming what's going on it's the most effective way. There's just no other way that's better, right? Because you can go back and you don't have to worry about time studies right then and there, because you can do the time study from the video, right? But with that said, there's one potential downside or pitfall that I have personally experienced over the years. And that is when the engineer comes running out with his video camera or her video camera and sets it up and it tells everybody, oh, just ignore the camera. Meanwhile, they're like up in the person's face and filming, so how do you deal with any potential anxiety that the person being filmed might experience?
One of the things that I really try to use is a GoPro, right? So if I have two cameras, one is really outside, so they can't see the camera at all. So one of the things that I do is use a DSLR setup in some sort of a balcony, who's zoomed in into the person, so that it actually captures his activity and also the movement.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing I have is a GoPro on the person itself. So if he doesn't have someone who is looking over his shoulder, then you feel that he is more at ease. So that's how I try to.
Do you mount it on their head or like with a strap or something, or how do they hold it?
Usually I do it on their chest. There's a chest belt that you can wear, and you can attach a GoPro to it.
That's really cool, because you could have that perspective of the outside looking at it, but then also flip to the camera on their chest of what they're seeing, right? So that's great.
Exactly. So whatever the things you miss because the camera is so far behind, you can see through the first person perspective that this was the activity that was in hand. And then we can break it down into simple tasks.
I like it.
It's a huge game changer. Yeah.
That's a great tip. All right. Well, listen, we can keep going on and on about VIBCO, but I know you might have a few questions for me. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't normally have people asking me questions on the show, but let's see what I can do. What's on your mind?
Sure. One of the things that, it's a really cliched question, but I love to ask it. Is what are some of the things that you find yourself thinking, if only I knew this earlier in my career, right?
If only I knew this earlier in my career. I think the most common answer people would say when they hear something like this is, that it wasn't all about the tools and it's about the people. I think this is probably the most canned response that you hear. And I suppose there is some truth to that even for me. But I'll tell you what, I don't regret, my journey. I don't regret being a so-called tool head early on, as a young engineer running around building cell phones and all the rest of it, because it formed me into who I am now. Sure, could I have been more respectful of people around me? Definitely. I was always a pretty nice guy and all that kind of thing, but I could have for sure, involved others. But I think maybe the way that I'll answer this question, Tejas, is I would say that I used to put a lot of pressure on myself early on in my career with feeling like every project that I ran or every event that I was a part of needed to be a smashing success, and we needed to save all this money and all the rest of it. And, part of it was some of the companies that I worked at, over my corporate career. Unfortunately, some of them were pretty, how much money did you save this year, Mr. or Mrs. Continuous Improvement person, and we almost had to justify our existence. So some of it was because I had to do it, right, to sort of say you should keep paying me a paycheck because I'm helping the company, But that really drove a lot of bad behavior, I think. So if I could go back, I would probably take some pressure off to say that we might go 5S this area, or we might remove some walking waste as you described earlier, and it might not immediately roll down to the profit and loss statement, right? But it's still the right thing to do, right? And, I know VIBCO and companies like Fast Cap and some of these other lean exemplars out there, they're not ever really worried about how much money are you saving me. They fix what bugs you, and when you do this enough, the success comes, right? The money comes, exactly. The profits come, right, as a result of all those things. So that might be one of the things that I wish I could have gone back and counseled myself on a little bit, was that, not everything's got to save $1 million. Sometimes you just need to do things because they're the right things to do. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Actually, I do struggle with it myself. I want every project of mine to be the best, to be a showcase for everything, to follow. But I completely understand your point that it's all about those small wins, those the moments that you have with the team that are remarkable and not just a dollar amount at the end of it.
Man, You're a pretty good podcast host, man. You should start one up on your own. What else you got?
I actually have a YouTube channel.
Do you really?
To start with, so. I do. I just started it last month. It's called Simply Lean, and it just has one video now. But I'm sort of working my way onto some other videos. So
we'll link to it in the show notes. We'll link to it in show notes.
Sure.
Everybody needs to go and follow Simply Lean YouTube channel and give them. Subscribe and hit the bell, right? That's what you're supposed to say on YouTube, I think.
It is exactly the way you think. Thank you so much. So speaking of Karl and Paul Akers, right? They have been a huge influence on my life, and they've been my mentors. So I'm interested to know some memorable experiences that you learned from your mentors.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Well, let's see. What can I think of? There's one actually that I'll never forget forever. And this is, one of my business partners, Jon Miller, Jon and Kevin Meyer is the other partner of Gemba Academy. So me, Jon, and Kevin. So the first time I think the first time that I met Jon in person, I was working at a cell phone company in Texas. You can look at my LinkedIn and figure out who it is. And we brought Jon's consulting company in to teach us how to do value stream mapping. This is around the time Learning to See had just come out, the famous value stream mapping book. So everybody was all about value stream mapping. And so one of Jon's consultants came in to teach us. And Jon, his consulting company, it was called Gemba Research back then. And they were trying to win a big account with this company. This is a huge company that I worked at. And so he came on the last day of the report out. So this consultant for his company came in and they did a training. It's a traditional kaizen event, right? We did some training. We created a current state map, a future state map, and we made a lot of improvements. And we actually made things better that week. I mean, we still had things to do that we couldn't get done that week, but we made significant improvements that week. And I remember I felt a lot of pressure because I'm the one who kind of vouched to bring these folks in, and so back to that whole thing of wanting to have a home run, right? I would say it was a home run, and we made significant improvements in just a few days. And so I was excited for the report out, and we had this big room full of people. I mean, there must have been, 20, 30 people in there, including the general manager of the facility and all the senior leadership of the facility. They were all in there. And, so we go through the report out, just your traditional Kaizen event style report out. The operators got up and did their part, and I got up and said a few words about our part, and this and that. Everybody was all happy and smiles and handshakes and pats on the back. And then the plant manager or the general manager, he said, Derek, it was the gentleman's name. He says, "What do you think?" And Derek was on our team. Derek was one of the senior industrial engineers at this facility that we were working in. And he was a smart guy, man. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he was really, really good at his job. Industrial engineer, and really, really dialed in. but so we wanted him on the team, obviously. Strangely enough, throughout the week, he was very quiet. He didn't say much. He didn't really, he didn't help a lot, but he definitely didn't get in our way or anything like that. He just kind of was a bystander, really. So I didn't think anything of it. I was a quiet guy and everything's fine. Well, during the report out, the general manager, I said, Derek, what do you think about this whole thing? And he stood up and he said, well, I think it's all fuzzy math. And I was like, fuzzy math. And then he commenced to basically just bash almost everything that we did. And I was just sitting there with my jaw like open, like I couldn't even find words, like, what are you talking about? Like the whole week, he never gave any, idea that he wasn't on board with what we were doing. And it was clearly better what we were doing. We improved all sorts of things, motion, transportation, productivity was going up, and it was all good. The operators were happy. We removed a lot of struggle, right, from the operators. And so it was all good. So anyhow, he says this, and I'm just sitting there, again, my mouth wide open. And then Jon, he is really one of the main mentors of my life, he stood up. Mm-hmm. And no, this is many years ago, right? Me and Jon are about the same age. Jon's a couple years older. So we were probably, we were in our upper 20s at that point. So Jon's a pretty young guy, right? He's guys in upper 20s. And he stood up and really calm. He then basically he didn't, I don't know how to explain it. He didn't say, Derek, you're wrong or whatever, but he basically he voiced his justification or his defense, if you will, of what we did in this very calm and very eloquent and very non-emotional way. And that's Jon's style. And he's a pretty laid back guy anyhow, right? But he said all these things in such an eloquent way that I was like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, basically, in my non-eloquent way, I'll just say it shut Derek right up, right? He just sat back down and didn't say another word, essentially. And, and then the event ended. So I think what I learned from that was that sometimes you get into these really heated situations, right? Or these really maybe intense situations. And sometimes the best way to handle it is just through calm and to be calm and be eloquent and not to attack, because it would have been easy to just attack that guy, right? And so what are you talking about? You were here all week. You didn't say anything, and made it into a big argument, but that wouldn't have helped, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I learned a lot from Jon that day on the importance of maintaining your cool, maintaining your composure when things kind of aren't going your way, right? And so, I mean, that's not necessarily like anything to do with value stream mapping or anything like that, but it's just in general, like the importance of controlling your emotions. And I don't know. So I'll never forget that. And just the calm. And I remember thinking, who is this guy? Jon, I didn't know him at the time all that well, and that's, obviously we've become great friends and he's been one of my main mentors as it relates to lean and business in general. So I don't know if that's one story.
It's a great story, and the thing I take away from that story is if Jon had bashed at Derek, probably people like Derek wouldn't have voiced their opinions next time, right? Yeah, because they felt a hostile environment next to them, so they won't share what they actually feel. Yeah, and that's something that you don't want in any teams, right? Exactly. You need to know where the other person is at. So yeah, exactly. Wow, that's a good lesson to learn. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had a lot of other. There's a lot of other. I feel bad only talking about Jon, but like one just other quick thing that I've always remembered is I had when I was going through, I went through sort of a traditional kind of green belt, black belt, master black belt before I got onto all the lean stuff. And I remember during my master black belt training, there was a trainer. His name was Chris Kaczynski. And he since, unfortunately, tragically passed away a year or so ago. Young guy, it's just a devastating death. But oh my gosh, he was such an amazing trainer and a mentor and a coach. And a thing that I learned from him was, and he was super smart, right? Really, really brilliant master black belt. I mean, he knew everything there was to know about the things that we were teaching, but he never made you feel small. And I had some trainers when I was going through my master black belt, the PhD guy up there in statistics, and he's wowing you with all this stuff and how smart he is. And I remember thinking they would from time to time kind of make you feel dumb. Like if you didn't know everything that they were talking about, you would feel you wouldn't dare ask a question because you didn't want to feel stupid or anything like that. But then a guy like Chris would get up, and Chris was equally as smart, if not smarter than the PhD guy, but he would never, ever make you feel small or make you feel dumb. And so I've really tried to take that on throughout my career, is to, when I know I'm someone struggling, to really kind of meet them where they're at and try to lift them up and build them up instead of trying to show them that how smart I am, and so I learned that from Chris, the importance of just really deeply respecting people and honoring them from where they're at and not trying to show off how smart you are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. I think those are one of the things that differentiate a true expert versus a person who just has the book knowledge and who claims to be an expert, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think are the other qualities that differentiate a true expert versus just a person who claims to be one?
A true expert would never claim to be one. Number one, right? So the minute you hear someone stand up and say, "I'm a lean sensei," you'd be like, "Oh, I'm a little bit arrogant too," So I think that's your first sign of someone who probably, I'm not saying they don't know what they're talking about or that they're not an expert at lean, but I think the true expert is the humble leader, right? The one who gets up and there's there's this book, it's more on finances and all, it's called The Millionaire Next Door. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a really good book. And it always talks about the people who are really millionaires or they're very successful financially, they drive the old beat up pickup truck or the old car, and they don't have the biggest house and all that, because they don't, they're not trying to show off, right? So those are the ones who are truly successful. So I think sometimes within leadership you see that as well. It's the person who is not afraid to get out there and mix it. That's what I appreciate guys like Karl and Paul and these guys. They're the top guys, but if you were just walked in and you didn't know it, you may not recognize that they're the top guys because they're out there mixing it up with everybody, right? Working on the floor right alongside everybody else. So I think those are qualities that are really important.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. A last question that I have for you, Ron, is based on your journey. It's been 20 plus year journey. What does future look like? Future of lean look like to you?
Video-based learning. No, just kidding. Oh my gosh. What does the future look like? That's an interesting question. And I don't know for sure. I'm not going to pretend to have a crystal ball. I think there's a lot of talk about, things like artificial intelligence and all this sophisticated learning and machines and this and that. And I do think that's going to play a role in not just lean, but just the business world in general. I mean, there's going to be different levels of intelligence that are going to, potentially, help companies, but it could also potentially hurt companies if they forget about the most important asset, right? And that is people, right? And our brains. But I honestly don't see, I see a lot of the same things kind of carrying on and maybe accelerating a little bit more. Things like scientific thinking. We spent a lot of time on the show, as you know, talking about like Toyota Kata and thinking your way through a problem and iterating. And it's nothing new, right? Toyota Kata is not new. It's just kind of sort of repackaging some of the things that some of these lean exemplars have done for many, many years. So I see more of that happening is people really understanding that being able to think, being able to learn quickly, and adapt and iterate, those are going to be the companies that are the most successful down the road, not necessarily the ones who create the most amazing product or anything like that, because products come and go, right? But the ability to innovate, to learn and adapt, those seem to be secrets to long-term success, I would say. So yeah, I don't know, but it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to be a part of it. I can tell you that.
Definitely.
Good. All right. Well, I wasn't too bad. I don't feel too beat up. It was fun. It was fun. Well, let me take it back and ask you just maybe one more question, or maybe two more questions. So, if there's someone listening to this right now, Tejas, that is new to lean, or maybe they're newer, maybe they're a couple years into it, something like that, what advice do you have for them?
I'm not sure if I am able to give them advice, but just share my experience with it. Is it's so much fun, and it makes so much sense. Lean is a way of life, right? As Paul Aker says, that it's a way of living. So once you embrace it, once you understand it, make sure you implement it and share those wins. It's really important to share, to celebrate those wins, share those wins with people, so that you get others on board as well.
Yes.
It's not something that one person in one particular company could do, but it's all about the teamwork and then getting everyone on board. Imagine having the entire workforce believing that they can fix what bugs them. That's going to be a game changer for any company, right? So don't give up. There's always going to be challenges such as you're so young, you haven't seen the world yet. There's going to be comments like that, but you just have to power through them. Help them, partner with them, understand where they're coming from, and just be patient. And again, not lose your cool like Jon did,
yeah.
right? Not lose your cool, and just power through it, and be always open to learn.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that would make sure that you achieve the success you want.
Fantastic. And last question: what's the best way for folks to connect with you?
I'd say the best way, apart from the YouTube channel.
Yeah. Say the name again.
It's called Simply Lean.
Simply Lean.
Yep. And other way to get in contact with me is via LinkedIn. So if you search Tejas Munot,
so it's Tejas. Tejas Munot, right?
Perfect. That's it. Yep.
Tejas. Okay.
And I'll be happy to connect with people. I love connecting with people. So, and then learning from their experiences. So, yep.
Beautiful. Well, and this is episode 348. Link to it, everything that we've been talking about. So gembapodcast.com. Go to episode 348. Everybody go right now and go to YouTube and subscribe to Simply Lean and hit the bell. And then Tejas, he's going to make some videos for us. And that'll be fun to watch you on YouTube.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Ron.
All right. Okay. You take care. All right. Appreciate it.
Yep. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Whether you've been on the continuous improvement journey for many years, or perhaps you're just getting started, Gemba Academy is here to support you. And while we're best known for our more than 1,500 Lean and Six Sigma teaching and virtual tour videos, we also have a team of experienced Lean and Six Sigma practitioners available for one-on-one coaching, as well as a variety of Lean and Six Sigma certification options. To learn more and to schedule a demo, head on over to gembaacademy.com.